Welcome to my channel. Subscribe and enjoy daily stories about cheating, revenge, and relationship advice. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, its rhythmic sound barely registering as I sank into the couch, a book in hand and a glass of scotch by my side. Millie was working late again, something she'd been doing more often lately. I trusted her, but as the days stretched into weeks, a shadow of unease had begun to settle over me. Just as I was about to turn a page, the doorbell rang. It was a sharp, insistent chime that pulled me out of my thoughts. I glanced at the clock. It was almost midnight. Who could be visiting us at this hour? I made my way to the door, my curiosity piqued. Peering through the peephole, I saw a woman with disheveled hair and tear-streaked makeup. Her hands trembled as she clutched something against her chest. I hesitated for a moment, then opened the door. "What's wrong?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm despite my growing concern. The woman's eyes were wild with anger and desperation. Without a word, she thrust a bra towards me. "This belongs to your wife," she exclaimed. I took a step back, startled. "What? Who are you?" "My name is Karen," she said, her voice shaking. "I need you to understand what's happening. I've been ruined because of her. She's the one who's been destroying my life." My mind raced as I took in the sight of the bra. It looked ordinary enough, but the situation felt anything but. "Karen, please come in," I said, trying to diffuse the tension. I gestured towards the living room. She stepped inside, still clutching her phone. Her face was a mask of distress. I tried to calm her, but she was clearly too agitated. "Look at this," she said, almost shoving her phone into my hands. On the screen were a series of intimate photos of Millie with a man who wasn't me. The images were explicit and left little to the imagination. I felt a wave of nausea as I stared at the screen. This can't be real," I stammered. "Millie wouldn't." "I know what I'm seeing," Karen interrupted, her eyes welling up with tears. "My husband left me because of these photos. He thinks I'm the one cheating. But you need to understand, she's the one who's ruining lives." I was struggling to process everything. My emotions were a chaotic mix of confusion and anger. "I need to talk to Millie," I said, turning towards the phone. "No." Karen's voice was urgent. "You don't understand. This is bigger than just her. I've been trying to find out who's behind this. Your wife is just a pawn." "Karen, calm down," I said, trying to maintain control. "I'm going to call Millie and get to the bottom of this. You have to wait here." Karen nodded reluctantly, her anger momentarily replaced by a weary resignation. As I dialed Millie's number, my heart raced. The implications of the situation were overwhelming. If the photos were faked, who was behind this elaborate scheme? And why target Millie? When Millie answered, I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. "Hey, what's wrong?" "Millie, we have a problem," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "There's someone here with accusations about you, serious accusations. Can you come home right away?" "What kind of accusations?" she asked, her voice edged with concern. "I'll explain when you get here," I said. "Just please come home." After hanging up, I turned to Karen, who was now sitting on the edge of the couch, her head in her hands. "Karen, we need to sort this out," I said, trying to offer some reassurance. "I don't know what's going on yet, but I promise we'll get to the bottom of it." She looked up, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and skepticism. "I hope you can," she said softly. "Because this is destroying everything I've worked for." As I awaited Millie's arrival, the weight of the night's events pressed heavily on me. I had no idea how this would end, but I knew one thing for certain: our lives had been thrown into chaos, and it was up to us to unravel the truth. The minutes ticked by slowly as I paced the living room, my mind racing with thoughts and questions. The tension in the room was palpable as Karen sat rigidly on the edge of the couch, her gaze fixed on the floor. The quiet was interrupted only by the occasional rustle of the photographs Karen had brought with her. When Millie finally arrived, she was visibly shaken, her face pale as she took in the sight of Karen in the bra lying on the coffee table. "What's going on?" Millie asked, her voice trembling as she walked in. She looked at Karen, then at me, her eyes searching for answers. "Millie, sit down," I said, trying to keep my tone even. "Karen has some accusations to make." Millie took a seat on the couch, her gaze never leaving Karen. "What's all this about? Why is there a bra here, and why are there photos of me?" Karen stood up, her voice rising with frustration. "These photos were sent to my husband. I've been told they're proof of an affair between you and some other man. My life has been shattered because of these lies, and now I'm here to confront you." Millie's eyes widened in disbelief. "I don't know who those photos are of, but they're not real. I haven't been with anyone else." "Millie, I want to believe you," I said, trying to maintain control over the situation. "But Karen's been through a lot, and we need to figure out what's really going on here." Karen's voice softened, though her eyes remained fierce. "I'm not here to ruin anyone's life. I just want to know the truth. My husband left me because he thought I was cheating. If you're innocent, then someone else is behind this." Jack, our private investigator friend, chose that moment to arrive. He'd been a beacon of hope in the storm of confusion. With a calm and steady demeanor, he took in the scene and immediately began assessing the situation. "Hey, everyone," Jack said, stepping into the room. "I got your call. What's the situation?" I quickly briefed Jack on the events that had unfolded, showing him the photos and the bra. He examined them closely, his eyes narrowing in concentration. "These photos are manipulated," Jack said after a few minutes of scrutiny. "The lighting and shadows don't match up. And the resolution is too sharp, which suggests they've been altered." Millie's shoulders slumped with a mix of relief and exhaustion. "So you're saying these photos aren't real?" "That's right," Jack confirmed. "They've been doctored. But that doesn't answer the question of who's behind this or why. We need to dig deeper." Karen's expression shifted from anger to confusion. "If these photos are fake, then who would go to such lengths to frame Millie and ruin my life?" Jack looked at Karen with a sympathetic yet determined expression. "That's what we need to find out. Someone is orchestrating this scheme, and it's not just about you or Millie. We're dealing with a larger plot." I could see the fear and uncertainty in Millie's eyes, and it pained me to know that she was suffering because of this. "Jack, what do we do next?" I asked, trying to focus on the task at hand. "We need to find out who has the motive and the means to carry out something like this," Jack said. "And we need to start looking at the people in Millie's and Karen's lives who might have a grudge or a reason to cause trouble." As the night wore on, Jack, Millie, and I began to piece together what we knew. The immediate sense of danger had shifted to a more methodical approach. We would investigate further, uncover the truth behind the scheme, and find the person responsible for the manipulation and deceit. Karen, though still shaken, seemed to find a glimmer of hope in Jack's expertise. "Thank you for taking this seriously," she said, her voice softer now. "I just want to see justice done." "We'll get to the bottom of this," Jack assured her. "We'll make sure that whoever is behind this pays for their actions." As we wrapped up the night's discussions, I couldn't help but feel a mix of relief and apprehension. The immediate threat of false accusations had been addressed, but the path ahead was still fraught with uncertainty. The truth was out there, and we were determined to uncover it, no matter where it led us. The following morning, the weight of the previous night's revelations hung heavily in the air. Jack's office, usually a haven of organized chaos, felt more like a command center now, with files and documents spread out across the desk. "All right," Jack said, gesturing to the piles of paperwork and the computer screen displaying various records. "Let's dive into this." Millie and I took seats opposite Jack, Karen sitting quietly beside us. The room was dimly lit, the morning sun filtering through blinds, casting a somber glow over everything. "From what I've gathered so far," Jack began, pulling up a list of names and documents, "the pattern we're seeing is not just random. This sort of manipulation takes resources and a certain level of influence." Millie looked at Jack with a mix of hope and apprehension. So, who's behind this? Do you have any leads? Jack nodded, pulling up a series of documents on the screen. There's one name that keeps popping up, Gregory Haynes. He's a well-known philanthropist with a reputation for doing good, but there's a lot of chatter about him being involved in shady dealings. Karen's eyes widened as she glanced at the screen. Gregory Haynes? The philanthropist who's always in the news for his charitable work. Yes, that's the one, Jack confirmed. He's built a reputation that shields him from scrutiny, but behind the scenes, there are reports of manipulation and blackmail. I frowned, struggling to connect the dots. How could someone like him be involved in something so deceitful? Jack leaned forward, his tone serious. Haynes has a lot of resources and connections. He's been using his influence to orchestrate schemes where people are blackmailed or framed. The photos and the bra are likely just a small part of a much larger operation. Millie's face was a mixture of anger and disbelief. But why target me and Karen? What could Haynes possibly gain from this? That's what we need to find out, Jack said. It could be a way to control or manipulate individuals who are in vulnerable positions. By creating scandal and confusion, he can extract favors or money from his victims. Karen spoke up, her voice filled with frustration. I need to know why this happened to me. My life was turned upside down. If Haynes is behind this, he needs to pay. Jack nodded in agreement. We're going to find out the truth. We need to dig deeper into Haynes's dealings and see if we can find any direct evidence linking him to the scheme. Over the next few hours, Jack, Millie, and I delved into Haynes's public and private records. We discovered a trail of people who had been victims of blackmail or manipulation, all with a common thread linking back to Haynes. This is disturbing, I said, flipping through a file that detailed several cases of blackmail. It's like he's been building an empire on other people's suffering. Exactly, Jack agreed. And the photos and fake evidence are just tools he uses to control his victims. We need to gather more evidence to build a case against him. Millie sighed, her eyes tired but resolute. How do we even approach him? He's a powerful figure with a lot of influence. Jack looked thoughtful. We need to be strategic. We can't confront him directly without solid proof. Instead, we'll need to gather enough evidence to present to the authorities. As we continued to piece together the puzzle, Karen remained a quiet observer, her emotions a turbulent mix of hope and weariness. You're all doing this for me, she said quietly. I can't tell you how much this means to me. I just hope we can bring him down. We will, Jack said reassuringly. We'll expose him for what he really is. By the end of the day, we had a clearer picture of Haynes's involvement and the extent of his manipulations. The fight was far from over, but we were making progress. As we prepared for the next steps, the determination to see justice done burned brightly in all of us. The day of the confrontation arrived, bringing with it a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Gregory Haynes's office was a grand affair, reflecting the public persona of a benevolent philanthropist. Tall glass windows provided a panoramic view of the city, and the decor was an elegant blend of modern and classic. Jack, Millie, Karen, and I made our way through the impressive lobby, our steps echoing in the marble-floored space. The receptionist greeted us with a practiced smile, though there was a flicker of curiosity in her eyes. We're here to see Mr. Haynes, Jack said, flashing a badge that indicated his credentials as a private investigator. The receptionist nodded and picked up the phone, her voice a polite murmur as she relayed our request. Moments later, we were escorted to Haynes's office by a stern-faced security guard. As the office doors opened, Haynes rose from behind his sleek desk, his smile as polished as ever. He extended a hand in greeting, his eyes glinting with practiced charm. "Welcome," he said, his voice smooth. "What can I do for you today?" Jack stepped forward, his demeanor serious. "Mr. Haynes, we need to talk about some serious accusations. We have evidence suggesting you've been involved in a scheme to manipulate and blackmail people." Haynes's smile faltered slightly, though he quickly masked his surprise with a veneer of calm. "I'm afraid I don't follow. What kind of accusations are we talking about?" Millie took a deep breath, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "We have evidence of manipulated photos and blackmail. People's lives have been ruined because of this, and it leads back to you." Jack laid out the evidence on Haynes's desk, the doctored photos, documents linking him to various blackmail cases, and the detailed records of the victims. Haynes's eyes flickered over the materials, his expression shifting from feigned ignorance to barely concealed irritation. "This is preposterous," Haynes said, trying to regain his composure. "These accusations are baseless." Karen, who had been silent until now, stepped forward with determination. "It's not baseless. We've done our homework. We know about your operations, and we're not going to let you get away with this." Haynes's facade began to crack. "You're making a grave mistake. Do you have any idea who you're dealing with?" Before Haynes could say more, the sound of sirens grew louder outside the office building. Jack had coordinated with the authorities, and they were arriving as planned. The door to Haynes's office opened, and a team of police officers entered, their presence commanding immediate attention. "Mr. Haynes, you're under arrest for blackmail and manipulation," one of the officers announced, reading Haynes his rights. Haynes's expression turned to one of fury. "This is an outrage. I will not stand for this." The officers moved swiftly, handcuffing Haynes despite his protests. As he was led out of his office, he cast a final, venomous glare at us. "I'll make sure you all regret this," he snarled. "You think you've won, but you're only making things worse for yourselves." As the officers escorted Haynes away, Millie let out a shaky breath, her face a mix of relief and lingering tension. "I can't believe it's finally over." Karen, who had been watching the scene unfold with a mix of apprehension and hope, turned to us with tears of gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you. I didn't think this day would come." Jack offered her a reassuring smile. "It's not over yet. We'll make sure the evidence is used properly and that Haynes faces the consequences of his actions." Millie nodded in agreement. "It's been a long and difficult journey, but we're one step closer to making things right." As the police officers and Haynes departed, the office felt quieter, as if the weight of the deceit had been lifted. We gathered our things, a sense of accomplishment mingling with the exhaustion of the past few weeks. On our way out, Karen paused to thank us again, her voice choked with emotion. "You've done more for me than I can ever repay. I just hope this brings some closure to everyone affected." "We did what we could," Jack said. "But remember, it's the truth and justice that matter most." As we left the building, the city outside seemed brighter, as if the shadows of manipulation had been lifted. The battle had been won, but the journey had made us all more aware of the complexities and challenges that lay ahead. The resolution brought a sense of closure, but it also reminded us of the broader impact of our actions. We had uncovered a significant injustice, confronted a powerful adversary, and brought some measure of justice to those who had been wronged. And as we looked to the future, we knew that the fight for truth and integrity was a never-ending one.